Tim Lott. He's not here, but you tell him I said thanks for sending you guys tonight, okay? He might not know he sent you. I have no idea, so y'all let him know. You let him know. Hey, you can be seated. It's good to be in Mississippi. Amen? Back home they say, ain't nothing finer than to be in Carolina. But I got to figure out how to say that with Mississippi. Ain't nothing hippie like Mississippi, but that don't sound too good. But no, we're glad to be here tonight. Thank you so much for being with us. This was something we added to the schedule. Had one or two churches that said, hey, we're not close enough to go to Grenada. We can't get down to Hattiesburg. And I called Pastor Brian and I said, hey, listen, let's see if we can put something together. I said, where can we go? And he said, Pastor Randy would be glad to host. And I said, well, are you sure? He said, yes. I said, have you talked to him? He said, no. So then I called Pastor Randy and I said, Pastor, could you host us? And he said, I sure will. And I appreciate you, Pastor Randy, for allowing us to come and your wonderful team here. And good to have all of our youth pastors, our pastors that are here. Thank you so much, as they said earlier, for being here with us tonight. You are the reason we're able to do things like this. And especially on spur of the moment when we put these out. We'll have about 8 of these in the springtime, and they'll be at different locations across the state. Some will be on Wednesday nights for our smaller districts and smaller regions. But this is just a time, some of you have not met me yet. You can kind of put a face with the name and a name with the face, unless you've seen me on America's Most Wanted on the FBI shows. You've not seen me before, but I am glad to be here with you this evening. Also good to have Pastor Larry Bean. He is my pastor here, but I'm glad for you, Pastor. He's on our state council, just elected, but thank you so much for being here. He's pinch hitting for his youth pastor who's out of the country on a missions trip tonight. So he's paying his support tonight to be here. And also good for our youth board members. As I said earlier, Pastor Brian and Jenna, thank you so much for all that you do. Brian has already coordinated one of these events for me. And I said, can you coordinate another one? And he said, sure, I can. And Brian, if you're emotional, I'm emotional too. So you put us together in about a year, we're going to be in really, really bad shape. It's just going to be a tearjerker. It's going to be a rom-com movie, and we're just going to cry and cry and cry. And our wives are going to look at us and laugh and laugh and laugh. That's what's going to happen. And it's good to have Cameron and Chastity Bender with us, too. Cameron got elected to our youth board at the past ministers meeting, and we're proud of him. We're thankful for him and Chastity and for those precious angels right there that would not talk to me earlier, but hopefully in a year, if I'm crying, maybe they will come up to me and talk to me then at that point. I'll tell them I'm crying because they won't speak to me. Hopefully they will. But again, we're glad to be here. Listen, if you have not caught on who I am, I got some pictures that I'm going to show you of my family. That way you can kind of put a name with the face. But if you go to that first one, if you can, guys, in the back, that's all of us. That's me. That's my beautiful wife, Candace. She's here with us tonight. Hayden is 16. Gannon is 11. Hattie is 8. Maverick is 4 going on 192. He keeps me young. And I started losing my hair when Hayden was born, and if I still had hair, I would lose it again with Maverick. But that's who's with us here in Mississippi. But as Pastor Brian mentioned, we do have 2 more children that are grown. Go to the next slide if you can. Hannah and Rob are there with Mickey Mouse, and that's my grandson, Robbie. Yes, I have a grandson. He is 4 years old. Maverick is also 4 years old. I know that kind of sounds weird, but trust me, it's all good. Everything's all right. You don't have to worry about anything like that. And then Hannah is pregnant with my first granddaughter. She would be coming here in a couple of weeks. So we're looking forward to that, and we're excited about that. And it'll be an early Christmas present for us, and maybe an early Thanksgiving present. We're not sure, but she's due sometime between Thanksgiving and the first week of December, so we're anxiously awaiting that. Gracie is engaged to be married to Matthew on January 5th, so in the middle of all of this, moving to Mississippi, another grandbaby coming. We have a wedding that we're planning January 5th in Tennessee. So we are pretty busy, but we're excited for them. And Gracie and Matt will be here with us at camp. She'll be helping us with the media for camp meeting and also for youth camp, taking pictures. She's a student at Lee University, majoring in digital media and photography and business. That's a lot of stuff she's majoring in. And between all 3 of them, I know that she will do one of them really, really well. But she's a very good photographer. And so that's our family. We do have one more member that I'm not able to bring with me everywhere, but Bowman is our 5-year-old golden doodle. He is Daddy's boy, and we love him so much. That's his birthday picture this year when he turned 5 years old. So I don't think Pastor Randy would have allowed me to bring him tonight to church. He wanted to come, so he sends his regards to you guys, and wants you to know that he is so glad to be here in Mississippi. But that's enough about me. I want to get to the Word tonight. This is the challenge I have when we do these. I really try to preach something along the same lines at every place. However, I want to preach something different. For those of you that may have been at one before, or if you hear it online, this is all new stuff. It's nothing that I'm repeating. It's nothing that we've done before. So either it hits home and it's of God, or you just act like it's of God and you act like it hits home, okay? That will make me feel very, very good. But I really believe the Lord wants you to hear this tonight, students and our young people, because we live in a messed up world. And I want to talk to you about being unbreakable in a messed up world. That's been the common theme for these events. And we've got another one in Tupelo in 2 weeks. And I'll have some of the same thoughts that I'll share in a different way. But we live in a world that is so messed up right now, with everything pulling us side to side, pulls us different ways. It challenges us. It frustrates us at times. And there's tension that we can feel. And when I talk about tension, I'm going to move these mics, guys. You guys will have to forgive me, and we'll move around in a minute. When I talk about tension, I think about tension. You were down here doing some games earlier, and that's just healthy tension. In youth camp growing up, we would do tug of war. Anybody play tug of war? You know tug of war games like that? Yeah. My man right there does. He said, yeah, it's me. You look like you can win tug of war. I bet you can beat me. How about that? Tug of war, that's tension. You know, you're pulling the rope, and there's tension between the 2 points. And you're vying for who can pull the furthest, and you get that flag over the right point. That's one type of tension. The type of tension, though, that we're dealing with the world is nothing like that. It's a spiritual tension that we see. And it's infiltrated into our churches. And this tension has got so much to do with culture, and how culture looks at us as the church, and culture looks at you as Christians, and culture looks at you in school, and culture looks at you at your jobs. And it tries to say, how are you any different than me? 30 years ago, 40 years ago, you could look at most churches, especially Church of God, and you could see a difference. The problem is, back then, it was on the outside appearance. I'm 4th generation Church of God. I bleed the old blue and gold colors of the old shield, the old shield. Not this newfangled flame and the cross that we have. I bleed the old colors. I grew up in that. And years ago, the culture of the church, my mom and dad, when they got married, they were Church of God, they couldn't wear wedding bands. It was against our teachings in the church. Now think about that, young people. It was against our teachings to wear jewelry. For ladies, most of them had their hair up in this really tall beehive of a hairdo. I mean, and there would be contests, at YPE on Wednesday nights to see who could have the tallest one. Ladies could not wear makeup. And all of the ladies in here say, oh, my Lord. Because when you fix your face, you look one way, but when you take your face off, you look like somebody totally different. This one guy come in for marriage counseling with me one day at our church. And he said, I feel like I'm married to Jekyll and Hyde. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, when she wakes up, she goes in the bathroom, she comes out, she looks like a different person. She goes to bed, she comes in, and when she turns that light on before she goes to bed, she says, I want to give you a kiss goodnight. It's a different lady because she took her face off. Just think about that, how things were. Culture has influenced us, but it's not the outward appearance. It's not how we dress. It's none of those things. It's our inside. It's our heart. It's our spiritual man, our spiritual woman. The spirituality that we have right now is on display for the world to see. And culture is doing everything they can in this messed up world to pull you away from God. So the world says, how do you honor marriage? Because the world really looks at it now as just a partnership. The world doesn't really look at it as a man and a woman, one man, one woman. It looks at it as it's one man and another man, or a one woman and another woman, or a man and a boat, or a woman in a car. I mean, anything that you can say is my quote-unquote spouse, the world says it's okay. And some of that is even infiltrated into the church now, where we have churches that are saying it's okay to be gay. And your schools, young people, are trying to convince you of that. They're doing everything they can to say it's all right, you just love who. A God that loves you would never punish you for the way you have those feelings towards someone else. But my Bible tells me the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And what the enemy is doing is everything to destroy your life. God does love you, but God does not love sin. And if sin is in our lives, God loves you, but he can't have anything to do with sin. Therefore, he cannot reside in your life when the sinful nature is there. See, how do you live with sexual integrity in a world filled with sexual darkness? Or at any moment of any day, all you have to do is pick up a device right here, and you can see some of the most deviant and obscene things in the world. Listen, I've been there. I'm 40. How old am I? I almost said I'm 46. I'm 45, right? My wife is 46. She's 4 months older than me. I'll be 46 in January. I remember, some of you adults can go along with this. Pastor Brown was talking about how I'm a wrestling fan. I remember when I was 5 or 6 years old, it was Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant, but it was on pay-per-view. Pay-per-view back then, it wasn't digital stuff where we could look at our phones and you could see this, and it was a channel that you'd click through. You had this big old remote that's about like an iPad. I mean, and they were heavy. You know what I'm talking about, a heavy remote. And we had these things called VCRs. Do you know what a VCR is? You don't know what a VCR is? Red shirt does. What's a VCR? It's like tape. Yes, you're on the right. It was this big cassette that you would put in, a video cassette, and you would push down on it on a VCR. Now, the newfangled ones, you could actually insert it. But mine at my house was one of those top-load ones. And we actually had VHS and we had Beta. I think it was Beta. That was what it was called. Well, anyway, on those channels, you would have the pay-per-view channels. It was like channel 2 or 3 or something like that. It would come on. It was all these squiggly lines, and you couldn't see anything through it. You just couldn't. But my dad figured out a little hack. He could somehow put a tape in, push down, take some of the wires in the back, because everything, they were the bunch of wires that plugged into your TVs. And he could crisscross them, and he couldn't get the sound. But if you turned your head this way, you could make out what was on the TV. So I looked this way, and I could see Hulk Hogan body slamming Andre the Giant. And I could do that. Now, here's the thing. That's 5 years old. I got older, got to be a teenager, and we still had VCRs and things like that. So every once in a while, something might come on TV that I would want to watch. That was squiggly lines. I knew how to see this through the squiggly lines. It was a lot of work, about an hour and a half. But I could turn my head sideways and watch that R-rated movie. Took a lot of work. We don't have to worry about that anymore. You just click here and you get whatever you want to. This, though, has infiltrated into our churches, into our society, and we say, well, that's just normal. It's normal for guys to feel those feelings. It's normal for gals to feel those feelings. It's just normal. That's just the way life is. How can you be sexually pure in a sexually immoral culture? It's almost impossible. And all that culture does is continue to pull us back, this messed up world. And I'm here to ask tonight, do we have some young people? Do we have some teenagers? Do we have some students that say, Pastor Shane, I want to be unbreakable in this messed up world. I want to stand on the faith that I have, the faith my mom and daddy had, my grandparents had. Maybe you weren't raised in church, but your pastor has it, your youth pastor has it. I need that faith so that I can be unbreakable. See, culture is increasingly hostile. It wants to do everything it can to push us down. So what do? Do we stand strong? Do we try to hold on to those things? Do we lose those relationships that are bad? Do we throw those things out? What do? I've got this thought for you on the screen. See, when we choose convenience over our convictions, we risk compromising the very core of our identity in Christ. See, it's easy for me to choose what's convenient for my life. That's the easy way. I'm going to do what's easy. The path of least resistance for me to get from point A to point B. That's what I'm going to do. But convenience isn't always the way it is in the Christian walk. It's not the most convenient way. It's not the easiest way to get from point A from point B. We have to stay true to our convictions. Those of you who are youth pastors, one of the things we're going to start up the first of the year, it's MISCLA, it's a youth and children's leaders fellowship. I mean, it's been longer than 10, it's been 15, 20 years since I was a youth pastor. And it was tough for me back then. I know it's tough now because things have changed so much and what you deal with. And you see these things. And we need to get together. We need these type of events so we can fellowship together. So we can pour into you and you can pour into your kids. Because they're being pulled from every side in our convictions now. I've said it at every rally we've had. It used to be black and white, but everything is gray. Everything is gray. To our students, to our young people, everything is gray. And we justify and we rationalize why we can do this. If I go to this church, I can partake in these type of events. And if I go to this church, I can do these type of things. Why do I want to go to church that tells me I can't do all of those types of things? See, Daniel chapter 1 paints a picture of how culture can infiltrate into the very way of our life. How we can stand strong and how we can love people the right way. And we can be who God has called us to be when we stand to our convictions. And in verse 1 of chapter 1, it says, in the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came to Jerusalem and besieged it. All of a sudden, this king shows up, Nebuchadnezzar. He's this evil man. And he takes over Jerusalem. Now, let me give you some context. Babylon at this time was a dominant superpower in the ancient world. We talk about the superpowers that we have in our world now, and United States and Russia and those type of rumors that you hear about nuclear weapons. Babylon would be the equivalent of one of those size countries, our country. Where really at the snap of a finger, he could override a country and take it over. And it was about 605 BC that year that the Babylonians began to invade Jerusalem, and everything they would do, they would demolish. They would destroy the walls of the city. They would just burn the homes. Anything they could do. The most humiliating they did is they went to Solomon's temple and began to destroy it. The faith symbols of the church at the time being mocked and being destroyed. But see, Nebuchadnezzar, even though he starts off Daniel chapter 1, verse 1, he's not the main character of the book of Daniel. You say, well, Pastor Shane, it's got to be Daniel because it's named after Daniel. Daniel is not even the main character of the book of Daniel. See, Daniel takes center stage. But God is the main character of the book of Daniel. Because at every moment, God is orchestrating another door to open for those that follow him. In the book of your life, in this chapter that you're in, whether you're 13, whether you're 14, whether you're 15, whether you're 16, whether you're 17, whatever age you might be, whatever pages you're on, 3 months into school, this school year, God is orchestrating the chapter of your life. The problem is, will you let him write it, or do you take the pen from him? Will you let God do what he wants to do in your life? Or do you say, God, I've got it on my own. I don't need any help. See, all of this evil is taking place. All of these things are going on. And I'm going to jump to the very end, and then I'm going to backfill it with the message. There's all this evil, all this chaos, all this darkness. And most Bible scholars will say that in Daniel chapter 2 and verse 28, here is the entire key. The scripture proclaims very proudly, but there is a God in heaven. No matter what I'm facing, no matter the struggle, no matter the problem, there is a God in heaven. When I feel like I have no friends at school, when I feel like I'm at my very end of the rope, there is a God in heaven. When I'm on my job and I'm ready to quit, I'm ready to throw in the towel, there is a God in heaven. In my relationship with my fiance, with my boyfriend, with my girlfriend, and things are going bad, there is a God in heaven. Because there is a God in heaven, we can trust in him. We can know that he will take care of us, that he is able to do exceedingly abundantly more than I ask or think. So let's go back to Daniel chapter 1. But keep it in our minds that there's a God in heaven. Daniel, the Jewish people in a bad place. In verse 3, this is what the scripture says. And the king ordered Ashpenaz, chief of his court officials, to bring into the king's service some of the Israelites from the royal family and the nobility. Verse 4 says, young men without any physical defect, handsome, showing aptitude for every kind of learning, well-informed, quick to understand, and qualified to serve in the king's palace. Now, how many of you guys would meet that qualification? Let me read that again for you. A young man without any physical defects. So I'm talking about an athlete. Who's an athlete in here? Raise your hands. All right. All right. So you athlete, keep your hands up. All right. All you athletes, guys and athlete, guys. There you go. Guys. All right. Guys. If you think you're handsome, guys, keep your hand up. Come on, guys. Have some confidence. Red shirt still got his hand up. All right. If you think you're handsome and you're an athlete, Pastor Andy, you can keep your hand down back there. I'm just kidding. If you think you're an athlete and you're handsome and you're pretty smart, showing every aptitude for learning, besides my three gentlemen down here, do I have anybody that is between 13 and 18? I got two. All right. I got hey, look, hey, y'all. All right. Now listen. Y'all stand up. All right. Hey, you guys stand up. Stand up. You got your hands up. Stand up. All right. All right. Anybody else 13 to 18 that is all those things? All right. Come on down here to the front with me. All right. Come on down. Come on, guys. Come on. All right, listen. Here's what we're going to do. No. Y'all get up here. And y'all turn around and face them. I mean, that looks like a... Here, let me sit here. This would be a lot easier for me to figure this out. Why didn't you go up there? Oh, he's not 13. So it wasn't any other thing. He said he's not 13, so that works out good. So listen, from our left to our right, here are 7 guys, 7 a biblical number. This is God right here. God is moving in our midst. And the scripture tells us to bring young men without any physical defects. I don't see any bum knees, bad ankles, neck braces. Y'all all look pretty healthy, right? Yeah, pretty healthy? Good, it's good. Handsome. Does everybody think that they're pretty handsome? Oh, come on. Hey, do you think they're handsome? Come on, do you think they're handsome? Give them a hand. Showing every aptitude for every kind of learning. Okay, let's see it. Let's see how smart they are.
Hey, can I go sit back down?
All right. Who was the 45th president of the United States?
That's tomorrow.
The 45th president. And then it's not tomorrow. It's Tuesday is election day. But, you know, hold on. All right. What's your best subject? What's your favorite subject? Reading. That's not my favorite subject. So I'm going to have a hard time asking you a question about reading. Candy, what's a good reading question? Name a poet.
Aesop.
Aesop, is Aesop a poet? Aesop's Fables? I have no idea. All right, me and you are in the same boat. We're handsome, we're athletic. Hey, look at me, you know, I mean, I'm 120 pounds soaking wet, I know. But, you know, okay, let's go on here. All right, what's your best subject?
I don't have one.
You don't have one? And math? Pretty good at math?
Nah.
Do you like movies?
Yeah.
What kind of movies do you like?
Action.
Not those R-rated ones I was talking about. You got to look sideways at the screen, right? Not those?
I don't know. I get PG.
PG. Okay, that's a good answer. Okay, all right. That's a good answer. So, young men without any physical defect, handsome. Okay, so can you name me, you like Marvel movies?
Yeah.
Can you name me the 6 original Avengers?
No, I cannot.
All right, what's your favorite subject?
I didn't think about it.
Math. Okay, here we go. All right. I'm going to give you a couple of math problems. All right, what's 20 plus 20?
20 plus 40.
40. What's 40 plus 40?
80.
What's 20 minus 20?
0.
What's 40 minus 40?
0.
What's 88 plus 88? 176. What is your favorite subject?
Reading.
Read. It's not reading. Hey, hold on a second. Tell me that subject again. What did you say your subject was?
P, probably.
Pete, no, you said reading.
Out of all of them, P probably my favorite.
No, but you didn't say it was reading. You pronounced it slightly different. Like reading. You was like reading. What's your favorite subject? Reading.
No, I didn't say reading.
Okay, PE is your favorite subject.
Yes.
All right. So do you still do like in PE class? Do you guys have to do like a physical test or anything like that anymore? You have to do that. What do you do in PE?
Graduated, so.
You graduated.
Yeah.
Well, so you should know all of this stuff. Okay, so let's give you a question. Give me something I can ask you that it's going to be easy for you. I'm really trying to help you out because you graduated. Why don't you tell me a question to ask you, and let's see if you get that answer right.
Favorite book of the Bible?
What is your favorite book of the Bible?
Mark.
Mark. What comes before Mark? He's whispering to you.
Matthew.
Matthew. What comes after Mark?
John, maybe.
Luke. Man. All right, we got 3 more left. What's your favorite subject?
I've got to go PE.
Well, not PE.
I've got to go PE. Math.
Okay, so addition. Are you fine with addition? You go with that?
I'm fine.
You go with multiplication too? All right, so what's 8 times 8?
36. No, whoa.
Where did that come from? Where'd you pull that from?
What's 8 times 8? 36. What? 8 times 8 is what? Hold on.
48, right?
What's 48?
It's 8 times 8.
8 times 8 is 64.
No, it's not. Oh, wait, it's 64.
Okay. After it was 36, 48. It's like it's like the Saints quarterback, 80, 88, 36, 40, hike, okay?
That's the ball. That's it.
All right. You want another math problem, or are you just going to go? Okay, all right. Let's go ahead and move on to you. All right. What's your favorite subject?
Math.
Math. These math guys.
Algebra.
Yeah, get him algebra. What's a squared plus 5 squared?
You got some paper?
X minus 7 equals 10. What is X?
X minus 7 equals 3.
There you go.
Paper. Okay.
Yeah, move on to the next one.
Oh,
What's your favorite subject?
don't say math.
History.
History. Hey, okay, all right. So who was the 44th president of the United States?
I don't know.
Do you want to guess?
Donald Trump.
No.
45.
Who was before Donald Trump?
I don't know.
It wasn't Biden. Biden's the president now. He said Biden was before. Okay, so out of these 7, so listen, this shows you how hard it is to find young men who don't have a physical defect, who are handsome, but that shows some aptitude for learning. We got half of them right. Well, it doesn't say half of young men, it just says young men. Hey, give these guys a hand for helping me out, all right? I appreciate you guys. Listen, if we had at Forward, if you come to Forward, Brian, help me remember. I know most of them was from down you guys' way. We'll give them something free at Forward for coming and helping me out, okay? So here's the case. They're asking for all these young men that basically are the prom kings, the valedictorians, the most likely to succeed, all of that. That's who they're looking for. And then in verse 5, he goes on to say he was to teach them the language and literature of the Babylonians. They want to indoctrinate the young men that will be the influencers. They want to indoctrinate so that those young men can infiltrate into culture. And then the king in verse 5 assigned them a daily amount of food and wine from the king's table. They were to be trained for 3 years, and after that, they were to enter into the king's service. So think about this. After destroying the city, after doing everything he could, he then goes and he starts finding the best and the brightest so that he could indoctrinate them to lay the foundation for what Nebuchadnezzar wanted Jerusalem to become. See, Daniel was one of these, and there was probably 12 to 17 others, and Nebuchadnezzar's plan was to strip the boys of their Jewish identities, and then he started changing their names. Now, our name has an identity. My grandson's name is Rob Bailey. He's the 7th or 8th Rob Bailey that there is. Now, their middle names are slightly different. So he doesn't have that Roman numeral after his name, which would be pretty cool, I think, but like King George the 8th or something. But they changed their name. The name is the identity, and that's been the way it has been on the Bailey side of the family. What's your name? That's who you're known as. For the good things, the bad things, all of that. That's who you are. And Nebuchadnezzar starts to strip away the names of these young men. And in verse 6, it starts to tell us, from those that were chosen from Judah, Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. And the chief gave them all new names. To Daniel, the name Belshazzar. To Hananiah, Shadrach. To Mishael, Meshach. And to Azariah, Abednego. See, all of these original names related to Yahweh, pointing them to God. And now the Babylonian names point them to the world. See, let me just give you a little side note in Scripture. Anytime Daniel talks, Nebuchadnezzar might have changed Daniel's name, but Daniel always refers to himself as Daniel. His identity can't be changed because of what one man declares. Your identity cannot be changed when the world says you're somebody else. When culture tries to say that you're not good enough, when culture says that you're not smart enough, you've been identified for the cause of Jesus Christ, and He loves you, and He will take care of you, and He will provide for you, and He will always make a way for you, no matter what you are dealing with. Daniel keeps his name when he's talking about himself. See, you can change my name. You can change what you think my identity is. But my name is only that. You can't change who I am. Daniel proclaims throughout the scripture. Listen, I got two very simple things that I'm going to share with you. Then we're going to wrap this up. How do you not change your name? You got to first know who you are in Christ. Your identity. You have to know who you are. Because that's the first place that the enemy will always attack you, is your identity. Those of you that drive, students that drive, guys drive, gals drive, who drive? Raise your hand. All right. You red shirt, you drive? Red shirt just raising his hand. He's just excited. He's just glad. Listen, I have never got caught by the police without my license. Thank God. There have been a few times that I have been without it. Very, very few. Because that license identifies who I am. Candace and I, when we were moving, we had to move some stuff. We rented our house in South Carolina. We had to move some stuff here a couple of months ago, or a couple weeks ago. And we stopped in Commerce, Georgia. And it was about 11:30 at night. We had pulled into the Quick Trip to get a coffee. And I pulled out. And as soon as I pulled out, I thought the lane to get on the interstate was right here. And it wasn't. It was one more block down. And I weaved back over and weaved back in. And as soon as I did, blue lights hit me. And I thought, it's 11:45. He thinks I'm drunk because I'm going like this. I'm 45 and my eyes aren't as good at night as they used to be. And I didn't know where I was turning. So we pull off on the side of the road and right at the exit. And he comes up, and the first thing he says is, license and registration. Doesn't say, hey, how are you doing? Hey, I just wanted to see how you feel tonight. No, license and registration. And what does he do? He takes it, he looks at it, and then he says, do you know why I pulled you over? Now, the flesh in me wanted to say something that probably I couldn't say from the pulpit tonight. Because it's 11:45, Cameron. I'm tired. I'm an hour still from South Carolina from my house. But I said, no, sir, I really don't. He said, well, you were driving very erratic back there. I said, oh, I thought I was supposed to turn there, and it was one more block down. I didn't realize that. Well, you didn't turn your blinker on. Well, there's no cars out on the road, so I didn't turn my blinker on. That's the reason why I didn't. I wasn't trying to be smart to him, but it's just that was the fact. There's nobody out. So what does he do? He goes back to his cop car. Not 1 minute later, he comes back. He said, I'm just going to give you a warning. Just be careful. Because what did he do? He went and ran my driver's license. That's my identity. He knew that I hadn't have anything out and all that kind of things. If I didn't have my license, trust me, he'd have pulled a Church of God preacher out and give him a breathalyzer because he wouldn't have believed anything I was saying because I didn't have my license. Because he would have thought I was drunk. But my identity, he was able to show that there's no arrest, there's no ever pull of, tickets for anything like that. Our identity, who we are in Christ, that's what matters. It doesn't matter what your friends think about you. They won't be your friends for a long time anyway. You'll go to college, you'll make different friends, you'll make new friends. You'll get married. Once you get married, you'll have your wife or your husband. They'll be your friend, hopefully. Hopefully your best friend. You'll have people you work with. So the time that you have right now, and you worry so much with my identity of who everybody thinks I should be, when I should be more concerned with who Christ wants me to be. In verse 5, when it said the king assigned them a daily amount of food and wine from the king's table, here's how indoctrinated he was trying to get them. He says, I'm going to change your names, I'm going to change your identity, and you can only have this amount of food that I give you. That's the hook with this relationship. You've got to do what I say. You've got to become who I want you to become, and this is the food that you will eat. And it was even worse because the food that Nebuchadnezzar was ordering them to eat was food that was being prayed to a pagan god. It was dedicated to dishonor the real God, but to promote their God. Now think about this for a moment. It would be real easy for Daniel to rationalize and say, I've got to eat, God. I've got to eat. So God, you'll understand right now for this one time, because I need to eat this food. And this is the only food that I'll have, that I change my identity and who I am, God, because God, you don't want me to be hungry. You don't want me to struggle. God, you said you'd supply all my needs, and it's right here. And I know, Lord, it breaks my convictions if I compromise with culture, but God, I've got to have something to eat. And in our world now, that's what happens. Culture will say it's okay. It's okay. Just have a little bit, it'll be all right. Nobody will ever know. Nobody will ever. God's a merciful God. God's grace is sufficient. And that's where everything becomes gray, because all of a sudden now we justify and say, God, but I need to have this to eat. If I don't have nourishment, God, I will die. God, if I don't have this, I won't be able to make it. God, if you don't help me right now, Lord, I don't know what else I will do. Again, what I said earlier, if we choose convenience over our convictions, we risk compromising everything, every part of our identity in Christ. Young people, too many times you're compromising your convictions. You know you shouldn't go to that party. You know you shouldn't hang out with this group of friends because bad things always happen. You know you shouldn't send that text. You know you shouldn't say this on social. You know you shouldn't take this picture and this video. You know you should, but we compromise our convictions. Because the second thing, our identity gets messed up, but then we choose those conveniences. And instead, as a follower of Christ, we've got to choose our convictions over the conveniences of this world. We've got to choose those convictions, the things we know that are right. See, in Daniel chapter 1, verse 8, this is what it says. Daniel resolved not to defile himself with the royal food and wine. And he asked the chief official for permission not to defile himself this way. Now, several versions say it differently. He says he asked to not defile himself this way. The New Living Translation says that Daniel was determined. The American Standard says Daniel made up his mind. The King James Version says Daniel purposed in his heart. He resolved not to defile himself. He was determined. He didn't care what anybody thought. The only person he cared about was what the Father commanded. Young lady was singing up here earlier. What's her name? What? Bryce. Bryce, you said it. When you said about you might have the wrong person in a relationship. If you're praising the Lord and they look bad look at you the wrong way, things like that. You immediately spoke what I'm preaching tonight, because too many times, well, I can't worship God. I can't because what will somebody think? What will somebody tell my buddy tomorrow at school if they see me do this? What will they say? Or my friend knows what we were just talking about. How can I worship God when I've got those thoughts in my mind? How can I go through those motions? That's all I'm doing. So then we just choose not to do it. We've got to choose our convictions over the conveniences of this world. See, Daniel, he was forced to live in Babylon, but he didn't let Babylon into him. See, I'm forced to live in this world, but I'm not of this world. This world is not my home. Heaven is my home, and I'm going to do everything I can to be set apart from this world. No matter what anybody says, no matter what happens, I've got to do everything I can to be different. See, if we're going to live with conviction in this culture of compromise, then we've got to be wise, and we've got to predetermine some resolutions. I mean, in 2 months, it'll be a whole new year. Those of us that broke our resolutions on January 2nd will have a whole another day on January 1st to try to start them again. I'm going to lose weight. I've been trying to lose weight for 12 years. I got to figure it out. Especially because Wednesday night, I told some of them earlier, I went to put on a shirt. I was going down to Pedal Spiritual Life Center to preach, and I had an outfit picked out, and I put on my shirt, and all of a sudden, I said, Candy, did this shrink in the wash? She said, no, you just gained weight. And I said, no, I haven't. But I have. So I got to resolve. The problem is we can make resolutions all the time, but we really don't mean them. As a child of God, I've got to resolve that beyond a shadow of a doubt, this line I will not cross. I'm not going to give up my convictions. I'm not going to give those things up that I hold true and compromise with culture. Here's what you have to do, young people. I've got to resolve that I'm going to spend time with God. I said this a month ago at Destiny. You don't have to spend 30 minutes a day in prayer before you go to school. But it's very easy to spend 90 seconds. And you start somewhere. You don't have to read a book of the Bible in the morning, but it's real easy on YouVersion or any other app to have a scripture of the day. And you have it come up 6:30, 7 o'clock, whenever you get up for school, and you read that. And you keep that thought in your mind. It doesn't take but a couple of minutes. But no, we think we've got to become the next Billy Graham and spend hours and hours. I'm not saying there's anything wrong, but you got to start somewhere. You got to resolve in your heart and your mind daily, I'm going to do those things. Those of you that, young people that have a job, how many's got a job? Raise your hand real high. Right. Hey, listen, you got to resolve that you're going to tithe. All the pastors, youth pastors said amen. You got to start somewhere. Don't wait. Your tithe, you make a resolution that I'm going to tithe my 10% that I make. That's God's money. The first fruits of what I make. So if I make $100, how much does, you guys are bad at math. It's $10. If you make $500 in a week and you're in high school, then you need to take the youth director out for lunch because just making pretty good money. But that would be $50. You've got to predetermine these things. You've got to predetermine what you're not going to do. And this is the hard one. I'm not going to spend more time on social media than I am in the Bible. I'm not going to spend more time on Snapchat, on Instagram, on TikTok. Listen, some days I'm as guilty as any of you. I start scrolling and I say, oh, look at this, and it's this, oh, it's this. Because my phone hears what I want to do with those that I want to lose weight, and it shows me all these things that are high protein. And I start watching it, and I'm like, oh, this guy takes 2 tortilla shells, and he puts 4 eggs in it, and then he cuts up some spinach, and he puts some cayenne pepper in it, and then he puts it in a pan, and it makes it into an omelet pizza. Oh, wow. And then the next thing, because I watched the whole thing, it shows me another recipe. And I end up going down this yellow brick road path to where I have already lost 20 minutes of my day. But I don't have enough time to spend 90 seconds in God's Word. See, I've got to prioritize what to do and what not to do. I've got to prioritize that when there are parties that I don't need to go to those. I'm not saying you don't hang out with your friends. I'm not saying that. But if I know that there's going to be drinking there, I need to prioritize that. I probably don't need to go there. Well, Brother Shane, you don't understand. No, I do understand. I understand very clearly. I've got to prioritize that if I'm going to do my very best to save myself for my spouse one day, then I got to prioritize not to have sex before marriage. Now, that's something we don't talk about anymore. Because everybody's friends, which means we all friends with benefits. We all do whatever we want to do. That means we're absolutely no different than any animal on this planet. In fact, there are some animals that mate for life. They're actually more faithful than some humans that I know. I say it because I love you. I've got to resolve that I'm not going to be in those situations. Listen, if you got to stay at home on the couch with a bucket of ice cream and watch Netflix, then maybe that's what you got to do. But not put yourself in those situations. See, Daniel predetermined, he resolved, he made up his mind, he purposed in his heart not to dishonor God. That's the thing. When you deeply think about it, when you know it, you understand, I don't want to do anything to dishonor God. But what happens is culture pulls at us, and we don't realize it. And the tension that we feel, as I told about at the very beginning, before we know it, we are overcome with that. Kirkland, if you guys can come, get ready for me. See, how do you stand strong? How do you love well the way God wants to love? See, what did Daniel do? And instead of making a public protest and throwing food, because that's what most people would do in that situation when there's food there, they would do everything they could. They would turn the tables over and get a picket sign out and start marching around and say, I'm not eating the king's food. I'm not eating the king's food. They would make a public scene. Actually, they would say, hey, everybody, I'm live here. Nebuchadnezzar's trying to get me to eat this food. And I tell you one thing, I'm not going to eat it. Because I love Jesus. I'm not going to do it. That's what I'm going to do. I want to tell everybody that. I want everybody to see exactly what I do. Here, let me turn the camera around. Look at all this. I want everybody to know what I'm doing because that's why I'm putting this on social media. Daniel didn't do anything like that. Daniel didn't storm out. He didn't send a text in all capital letters. He had respect. He had respect. He wasn't going to defile himself, but he was going to trust God. He was going to trust in the Father. So I want to ask yourself a question tonight. See, do you want to prove a point with your life or do you want to make a difference? Because too many of us are doing things just to prove points, not really to make a difference. We're doing everything we can just to try to get ahead of somebody else. But God wants us to be difference makers. You say, Pastor, how do I do that? Paul says it like this in Ephesians chapter 4. You speak the truth in love. That's what I told you a moment ago. I love you, so I'm telling you the truth tonight. There are hard conversations that we've got to start having in the church. Youth pastors, you've got to start having these conversations with your young people. We are losing a generation because we want to just patty cake baker's man with them all the time. Daniel makes, in verse 12, this kind of request. He says, please test your servants for 10 days. Give us nothing but vegetables to eat, water to drink. Then compare our appearance with that of the young men who eat the royal food and treat your servants in accordance with what you see. In verse 14, the chief official agreed to this, tested them for 10 days. At the end of the 10 days, they looked healthier and better nourished than any of the young men who ate the royal food. See, Daniel honored God. He said, just give me the vegetables. See, I saw on TikTok I need to have all this protein, but Daniel said, I'm just going to eat the vegetables. I'm not going to eat this stuff that the royal, I'm not going to take care of that. I'm not. Because I'm going to honor God. I don't want to eat this food that's dishonoring Him. And then all of a sudden at the end, he's healthier, stronger. Those men are healthier, stronger. And the Bible says because of this, God gave Daniel knowledge that he never would have had without that. He was able to understand dreams. In verse 19, the king talked with them, and he found none equal to Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. See, Daniel and this group of boys, they didn't blend in, but they stood out and they were different. That's how you're able to be unbreakable in a messy world. That's how you're able to be unmovable in a messed up situation, when you stay true to God's word. See, think about this. These young men, I went through all of that. We did this with these guys down here. The reality is these boys, they had been kidnapped from their homes. They didn't volunteer to do this. They were taken. They were made to do this. They were separated from their families, stripped from all support, called by pagan names, lost their identity completely, indoctrinated with a false worldview. But as I said at the beginning in verse 28, but there is a God in heaven. And tonight that God can reach down here at Morton Church of God, and whatever is going on in your life, whatever you're dealing with, He can turn it around. See, Nebuchadnezzar, the devil meant all of that for evil, but God turned it all around for good. He turned everything around. And tonight, wherever you're at, whatever you're dealing with, God can turn it around for you. Would you bow your heads with me? Father, I pray right now that you remind us tonight, as a believer, as a Christian, that I can walk with you, that I can talk with you. But God, I know as a believer, I still struggle. I still have failures. I still make mistakes. I know, Lord, that there are times that I feel like I don't have another way. I feel like I'm at my wit's end. And God, that's when I need you the most. And Lord, when I cry out to you, you're always there. You always answer my prayer. And tonight, for every young man, every young lady, I pray that you reach down, that you stir up something inside of them. They may feel like in this messed up world they're in, that they're being pulled in all different directions. But tonight, God, you can reaffirm to them, you can reassure them, and you can give them the energy to proclaim and to resolve that they're not going to dishonor you. This is what I'm going to do. This is what we've done at every valley. I'm going to ask all of our youth pastors, all of our pastors, youth board members, if you guys will come and just make a line across the stage and face out the audience. Young people, if you've not been with me yet before, this is the way I do it. I see you at a district rally. I see you at youth camp. I see you at camp meeting. But your pastors and your youth leaders and your youth workers, they see you every week. And some of you tonight have come in here, you're broken. And you need to just hear God tell you that He loves you. You need to say, Lord, I need your help in this situation. And in just a moment, I'm going to pray. I'm going to count to 3. When I count to 3, there doesn't need to be any hesitation. you need to get up and you need to run down here to your youth pastor, your youth leader, or anybody else that's up here. Because God can touch you tonight. God can help you. I'm not saying that you're going to hell. I'm not saying any of that stuff. I'm saying that you are in a situation and you feel like you're all alone. And you feel like there's just almost hopeless. And God can touch you tonight. Father, right now as we pray, I pray for every young man. I pray for every young lady. And Lord, right now some are dealing, they feel an uneasiness in their self. They feel like their pulse is getting fast, their heart's racing. Holy Spirit, would you just bring comfort to them right now? Let them know that you love them. You care for them. And tonight is the night that as they've been pulled from the left, from the right, when they feel like they've been squashed down, pushed over, that tonight they can know that they're a child of God. They don't have to have any fear. They don't have to have any hesitation. But tonight is the night you reaffirm to them your love. All right, young people, I'm going to open up these altars. When I count to 3, I want you to come down. And I will wait. I will wait on you. But God wants to touch you tonight. 1, 2, 3. You need to get up. Young people, get up. Young people, get up. Come down to the altar. Come down to the altar. Find your youth pastor. Find your pastor. Find your youth leader. I'm going to wait. Come on. Come on, some of you are waiting to see who else comes down. Don't look at who is coming down. You come on down. You don't have to wait. Start praying for these. Those of you that are at your seats, I want you to stand up with me. As they're praying, you say, Pastor Shane, I just feel like I want to worship the Lord tonight. I really need to do something. We've done this in every rally. We'll do it in Tupelo. We're going to sing I Speak Jesus. And you need Jesus spoken into your situation. You need Jesus spoken into your life. And when we worship, we worship through our pain. We worship through our trial. We worship through those situations. And they're going to start singing. And as they do, I want you to come down. I want you to start worshiping the Lord. All down to this altar. All young people, come down here. Let's worship the Lord together as we close out this. And let's just exalt His name. Go ahead, guys.